You can probably hear it a little scratchy. I did get a COVID test this morning. It is negative, so in full disclosure. But I still am at least trying to keep anybody else from if I've got a cold or something else. But anyways, I did at least want to come in and tell you a couple things that are going on. Obviously, just walking in past Robert and getting the flag at half mast, it certainly is a day to remember. 2 years ago today, certainly the attack that happened on NAS, 3 individuals were killed, a number of individuals were wounded, and we just became part of the worldwide terrorism stage. I will say, while it was tragic to be on that stage, I think Escambia County and the City of Pensacola showed what we do and how we prepare and how we picked ourselves up from that. And certainly the base has been a fixture in this community for 200 years, and I think we rallied behind it strongly. It was great last month to be able to go to the event that the Navy base had there to commemorate what was, I guess, the reopening of the building. It really was just a great day to overcome the tragedy that happened. But certainly today marks 2 years, so I was glad to see that the state recognized that, and I think all flags in the state of Florida are supposed to be flying at half mast. So we certainly remember everyone out there and our friends at NAS, certainly those that lost their lives and those that were impacted by this day 2 years ago. I will say one of the other things that has happened, some of the things that I want to talk about, certainly the passing of Doug Halford, former city council member. I just saw that over the weekend. Just so saddened to see that. Doug, not only certainly as a city council member, but for myself in commercial real estate, was a kind of a mentor. We certainly were competitors, but really in commercial real estate in the Pensacola area, it's more like a family. And certainly I'm very sorry to see the passing of Doug Halford. He was a great man, great in the real estate industry, and certainly served his chance with public service here at the city council. We will miss him, and my thoughts and prayers go out to Nancy and the family, and just wanted to mention that. Gonzales Street share route. This weekend we had a great event on Gonzales Street. I know that Councilman Moore was a part of it and worked very well, and he said it was a great day, and in the city he couldn't say more good things about it. So it was great to have. I know there were a few issues that happened on some streets. I see Amy in the back, and really I want to thank her, and I want to thank Chief Randall. We had a couple of intersections, I think mainly MLK and Gonzales, and maybe a couple other in Gonzales, where we had to station police officers before they got there. It was a little chaotic, but once they got there, I think the traffic worked well, the share route worked well, and we could see what Gonzales could be connecting North Hill to East Hill and across that area. So it was a great day. There were a number of people talked about how much they appreciated the day, how much they appreciated the City of Pensacola, both our engineering services, our public works, as well as our police officers. So I thought it was a great day. Also want to thank Boyce White, Steve Shelley, and their team with the East Hill Neighborhood Association, and seeing Lawrence in the back there. This is probably our largest neighborhood association. They did a great Christmas event. Got to put Christmas ornaments on a tree, live tree that Brian, I know we planted, so good job on that. It looks like it's a great tree right there on Cordova Square, the Cordova Square that's in East Hill, not the Cordova Square that we think of the commercial area. So it was nice. It was a great event. Really appreciate East Hill. They are very active, and they do a great job. I was very happy to be a part of, I've done Civitan's 300th ramp, 400th ramp, and this weekend the Pensacola Civitan did their 500th ramp, and that was over on the west side of town, but I've participated with Civitan on the other two that were in the city and in County Commission District 4, so I felt it only appropriate to go to that. I appreciate what they do. That's 500 individuals in our community that need ADA assistance with their house and a ramp, and Civitan has built those. That's 500. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around how many that is, but it's hard for me to believe over time what they've done, gone from 300 to 400 to 500. So Civitan, really appreciate them and very thankful for them. Also, the USO Runway 5K at the International Airport was great this past weekend. Had a chance to start the gun at that. That was a lot of fun, get to pull the cannon and start the gun. So that was a lot of fun. Man, we had some really fast people. And then we had a lot of people that just enjoyed the day. And it was really neat to get to run on the airstrip. So it's an amazing event that happens. And again, these are things that just your city puts on. And if you thought about all the things that were going on in the city this weekend, your city workers are very actively involved in making sure that there are a number of amenities and things for people to do during the weekend. So that was great. One of the things we've certainly been doing is things downtown. Want to indicate that parking fees will be waived downtown from December 19th through December 26th for City Blue owned parking spaces. If you go to a red private lot, it's not going to be forgiven. It is only the blue city spaces, on street spaces. There are a couple of city lots there, but those will apply for an amnesty week from December 19th through December 26th. Allowing downtown visitors to shop, dine, and enjoy the holiday lights and attractions without paying for parking. The free parking applies to city-only on-street parking and identifies by teal blue Park Pensacola signage. The free parking excludes lots, garages, and privately managed parking spaces. So I apologize. Our lots and our garages will still be paid, but it is only the on-street parking that will be. For a map of city-owned parking, visit cityofpensacola.com. Parking Amnesty Week gives the City of Pensacola the opportunity to support local businesses by removing the cost of parking and encourages people to shop local during the holidays. FEMA repairs. We're underway on several of these. The city will begin repairs this month to the waterfront areas of the Community Maritime Park, Sanders Beach, that were damaged during Hurricane Sally. These projects are the first of multiple Hurricane Sally repairs to be completed in the upcoming months as the city continues to work with FEMA to restore Pensacola's waterfront. Waterfront areas of the Community Maritime Park and Sanders Beach will be closed for repairs until they are completed. Community Maritime Park repairs are underway with an estimated completion of April 8th of 2022. And Sanders Beach piers and boardwalk are expected to be repairs will begin December 6th with an estimated completion date of April 1st. All remaining FEMA-funded projects related to Sally damage in City of Pensacola are expected to be completed by the summer of 2022, except for Wayside Park. For a complete list of the FEMA projects, visit cityofpensacola.com. And again, Wayside Park is connected in with the bridge, but again, we think we're close to getting started on the other ones as well. Four-way stops on Government Street at Balin and Spring. We'll be replacing the traffic signals with four-way stops. Removal of the traffic signals and sign installation is expected to be completed in January of 2022. Traffic study was conducted on both intersections and found that the current traffic volumes did not warrant the lights, and we'll be replacing with four-way stops. We've installed signage, but we can't get the lights down at this particular time, so we're waiting until we can do that, which should be after the holidays. So coming out of the holidays, we will have four-way stops on Government Street. And according to Florida Department of Health, our positivity rate for COVID-19 is 3.8% for the week. So again, we are managing ourselves in a good position vis-a-vis COVID. So these are just some of the things happening. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I'll look to hear from you. Yes.
We've had the opportunity to speak to police, and we've been talking about issue dealing with bird scooters after dark, and has there been any discussions with the city limiting the hours of operation, specifically at night, kind of similar to what Omaha, Nebraska has done?
Yeah, no, I think we have a number of things we would like to do with the scooter ordinance in January. We're expected to bring forward. Part of that will be some limited hours in the evenings. Some of it will be some other changes that we have. We also are looking at the possibility of a different version of scooter that will also not be allowed on the sidewalks, that will be allowed you can sit on. We have a number of different sidewalks. I want to get with David in Public Works. We have some sidewalks that are really short in the downtown area. The one I can think of immediately is Intendencia between Palafox and Romana. The south side has plenty of room. The north side is very short. We really need to get the birds off the north side because you cannot walk. It's tough to walk that one, even when there's nothing there. So if a bird's there, it takes up the entire sidewalk. So there were some things that came to light. There are definitely people that are not doing it the right way. But some of these are just not, some of these are intentional disregard for appropriate rideage and usage, and that's what we're hoping to target. There is also some just plain carelessness in dealing with traffic laws. If you take a scooter, you are expected to obey every single traffic rule. It's just like a bicycle. Just because you ride a bike doesn't mean you don't have to obey the same rules that cars do and bikes do. You have to do that. If you have a stop sign, do not blaze through that stop sign. I've had it happen to me I've been on Government Street. I've seen somebody come down Jefferson. A guy didn't stop. His two kids who probably shouldn't have been on scooters their age, but they stopped. But there is a little bit of a problem. We definitely need scooter riders to obey the traffic laws. You're not immune from traffic laws, but that's what we're working with. We do believe they can be responsible usage and used in the right way, but we definitely have seen some things. And again, that's why we use a test period. This is kind of our analysis of the project after 6 months in, and we have a number of things we want to change and we want to do differently. So we will be bringing that to council in January. Yes, John.
Congratulations on your Civicon Award for transparency, for holding these weekly press conferences. I've told you before over at Studio 850, we greatly appreciate that. And I think that speaks a lot well for the city administration.
Well, thank you. I guess my name's on the award, but it's not really. I don't see it as my award. I see that as the City of Pensacola's. I see Casey, Leah, Kareth. There are a lot of people that have been a part of this, and that's just. I think the City of Pensacola has made a commitment to transparency. I think 3 years ago we probably were the jurisdiction with the least transparency. Now we have the most transparency. So it's a commitment. It's not just me. It's a team effort, and it really needs to be an award for the team.
Now let me ask you a question, if I may. Several weeks ago, the Pensacola Community Garden Federation Center, the city property over on 9th Avenue, was on the agenda, and then it was pulled back. What's the status of that lease, and how much are the current lease payments, and where are you going to go with that?
Again, I think it's a very nominal lease payment. The idea is they kind of run the center. They take all the operational expenses of the center. They built the building. It was donated. So we don't really get much from it. We give them the ability, as long as they're continuing to maintain the grounds and the building, we work with them because they are providing an amenity. I don't know. Are we coming in December? We're having the meeting today with the new council president, so I'm not sure of my agenda. If it's on there today, John. I know it was going to be in November, but we had to pull it because the lady who manages the garden center could not be at the event, and she wanted to be there. I think it was going to pass, but she really wanted to be there if there were any questions, so she asked if we would pull it. We pulled it for her. I think it's more routine, and it should go through, and we should be moving forward. I will say, the prior leases have been 30-year leases. We've moved them to kind of 10-year with some renewal options, but really trying to figure out what's going on. The world changes. I think there are a number of ladies that are still actively involved in the garden center, but there's no doubt that their age has gotten up there, and they haven't been as replacing with as many new younger members. So I think over time, we just need to figure out what it is. But it's on a city property. The building could always become some kind of another amenity in the middle of East Hill. At this point, it's the garden center because they're willing to take care of it. If it ever comes to a time they're not willing to take care of it, then we can figure out that transition. But I think for the next 10 years, maybe 20 years, they're going to be there. I think the harder part is the management of it. I mean, that's what they've got to do. And my mother was very active there with the garden center, her group, and they have a lot of the plantings they've done there. Her group continues. They're in their 70s and 80s, and they continue to plant and do things, and it's great, and it's a great amenity to have for those individuals to be active still, and so it is impressive. But there's no doubt management just becomes more and more just it's always an upkeep situation.
Right. Now, I understand, and they advertise that they lease it out, sublease it as an event space.
Correct.
So they have a revenue stream.
Correct.
It's shown on the property appraiser's property value is in excess of $500,000. It's a beautiful piece of property over there.
It is.
Is the city, are you thinking about negotiating the lease payment going forward here to reflect the current value and the value to the community, everything considered?
I think we are very respectful for what the Garden Center has done in building the space and taking care of the grounds and doing that for 30 years. So I think much like with the Monument to Women Veterans, that we work with different groups, we try to give them the opportunity at a very lower rate to provide an amenity. If they were to go and we were to take over and do something else, I don't think you would see the same person get that rate. But I mean, the sweat equity has been put in by the Garden Club. They've done it, and it's no reason for us to ignore that sweat equity. They've been the ones taking care of it. They've been the ones doing the grounds, doing the building. So as long as they're there, we're going to continue to work the deal with them to make it agreeable to them. If we get it back, who knows what may be. But and again, I'm not saying that we're getting it back. I do think as you look at the age of the group, it's not getting a whole lot younger, and at some point, something's going to happen. But today, they're still taking care of it. They still maintain it, and they want the space. And by all means, they can have the space. Like I said before, I see ladies that were my mother's friends in their 70s and 80s, and they're still out there planting flowers. I'm not running little old ladies off from planting flowers. Yes.
Last week there was the opening of the tiny home that you went to.
Yes.
And also news that came out about the construction starting on the Garden Street project. We've had a lot of feedback about people really struggling out there to find affordable housing. And is the city looking into any policy changes, whether it be zoning or anything like that, to improve the affordable housing situation in the city?
I don't know. I mean, we are looking at amendments that are coming forward to the overlay. I mean, we had certain things that were happening in the overlay. There was no doubt the overlay, we didn't want neighborhoods to lose characteristic, but we don't want to lose affordability either. So we are bringing the overlay standards back to the city council to review the overlay standards and see what we can do and provide some either massaging or giving a path for people to be able to come forward and ask for variances a little bit more, or else lessening some of the standards. Just certainly dealing with those issues of cost. We've seen a number of things. Again, when we did it, we had a reason we wanted to do. We knew there was the potential to impact costs, but we didn't really know what that would be. And certainly, housing costs with the pandemic have risen dramatically since we instituted that. So I think we are willing to go back and look and see what we can do there. I don't know so much to zoning changes. I see Sherry in the back, and if there's something she feels like we can, we're not seeing necessarily that be the pressure of what we've got. I think for us, it's more finding ways to make it, maybe do some things differently. In December, we will have Lotus come to the point, and there have been a lot of things, and a lot of people have said, hey, why are you going for something different out of the area? And the reason, everything else, I'll let the people who are the professionals in figuring out about homeless. And by the way, I couldn't be more happier that we're moving forward on some solutions. I think it's going to allow us to get out of the predicament we're in and really begin the first time to establish some identity of where we're going. And I think you mentioned, that tiny home was the first. We got a village already planned, an 8-home little village area planned over on Pace Boulevard. But again, I think the overall part of looking at those ordinances are ways that we can figure out what we do. And I think Lotus, to me, is the chance that we get the private sector market that's building houses to begin to understand that there's no risk to making some percentage of theirs workable at a lower price point for those individuals who can get in there. It certainly has worked in Charlotte when you listen to the story that they were able to do, and they've got private sector people. What we need are private sector people that are willing to build. We have some of that right now going on in building, but we don't have people thinking about affordable housing, and we need to give them a reason to think about it. And, I think if you talk to Lotus, the regular private sector developer, owner, landlord is, there's a lot of risk involved in taking on some of these tenants that we've talked about. Now, again, Lotus will tell you in North Carolina, I mean, they're in the 90s percentage, if not 99%, effective in the people that they've put in and still being able to pay their rent and make their payments and everything else. But getting them in there is the path of least resistance, and again, landlords are going to be willing to look for other people who are less risk. So I do think Lotus coming forward is not just an attempt to deal with what's on the ground presently. It's how do we deal with future development and bringing things online and get them to think about affordable housing. Now, obviously, we have the affordable housing in that we're still working through Marcy Whitaker's area, the 500 homes or 500 units. We're still working on that. Obviously, cost pressures have really caused us to have some delays in that. But I do believe we have a number of different ideas that we're thinking about, that some of them are multifamily, some of them are single detached, some of them are duplexes. It's a little bit of everything. And we are working in that over there. Obviously, construction costs have hurt everybody when they look at affordability right now with supply chain issues. So we're very hopeful that that the supply chain gets rectified and we're able to get back and do some of those things that we want to do.
You mentioned the CRA overlay. I guess can you elaborate more on that?
The CRA overlay requires you to do a couple things. One of them, I think, is like for commercial structures, it's 80% window, which is good in the sense of creating some retail, some residential neighborhood or other type of neighborhood commercial. I mean, stuff that you have down on Palafox. But probably Cervantes Street is not going to go to that. And probably we're a little bit high, and we're causing cost prohibitive. Some businesses could have come in there that have not. And again, my understanding is since the standards were set in, there's been no commercial development that has occurred in these areas. Now, there's residential development, but no new commercial development. And it was brought to our attention by a commercial realtor that again, this was a challenge, and some of these things were making it cost prohibitive for things to come in. So I think we need to look at it and say, okay, what are we trying to create, and did we perhaps limit ourselves more than we thought and didn't do it necessarily? So I think we still need standards. We still want to create something attractive, but do you have to do 80%? Maybe you could do something a little bit less and get the benefits of what's there. So I know those are some of the things. I know that also in housing, we require a lot of features that we've been told, that considerably increases the housing cost. So are there ways we can give some, we still want front porches and a variety of things, but maybe do we shrink the size of it? Do we do some other things that we do to try to work within that? And again, there's some places where we've had houses going up and it's been no problem. So I mean, again, I think that's where staff is looking at it. Where we've had challenges, where we're trying to amend the ordinance. Where we haven't had challenges, we will keep. I mean, we certainly want to keep some standards to make sure what goes into the neighborhoods continues to hold that integrity of that neighborhood. But we don't want to do it in a way that's preventing affordable housing from happening.
And I guess this is my last question on this. Sorry. So you mentioned several different things, and do you think there needs to be an effort to have someone at the city take a comprehensive look and see how does this affect affordable housing, whether it's a CRA overlay, whether it's any city.
Well, I think if you saw where we were moving in creating new development services, I think Sherry and her department will need to be looking at that and figuring that out. And I mean, now she's moved up to a different place, so we will bring somebody back in to backfill her position. So she doesn't have those same responsibilities. She has other responsibilities, but part of them are going to be looking at the overall impact of what we do with the development process. And some of it is is the things of how we do it, and some of them is absolutely looking and see what our rules, if they are impairing in some way our ability to do that. So I think we're in the process of doing that right now. And I want to say, I mean, granted, there were some people who contacted us about it, but for the most part, this is a staff-driven initiative to say, what can we do to rehome what's there? So, I mean, this is really staff looking at the ordinance and saying, okay, when we went in, we liked a lot of things about it, but we didn't know exactly how it would work, and it's just us kind of saying, you know what, we've seen this thing applied, and we know kind of where the problems are, and we're going to tweak some of the problems we know. But there may still be other problems out there that we don't know. But I mean, that's what we continue to work diligently with feedback from all those things. And the last thing we want to do is make it so we can't get affordable housing. I mean, Marcy Whitaker and her team are very much pressed, and we tell them all the time, we got to figure out, we got to solve housing. But I agree. Part of it is, Jim, we got to just build more stuff. And I know it's that's kind of a catch-22, because you got people who just don't want to see new construction, but I mean, that's kind of where we are. I have been unapologetic about construction in the city of Pensacola and infill stuff, and I will remain so, even though I know there are plenty of people out there who don't like any new stuff coming inside the city, and that's what they don't like, and they're very upset by it. But if you are truly going to make a difference in what you're going out in the county areas off Beulah and up off 29, and if you're going to make a difference in not just asphalting those areas and creating sprawl, then you are going to need to do infill development inside the city of Pensacola. You already have the infrastructure here. You've already got everything ready, and we're very focused now on how do we become walkable, bikeable. So there's no reason for us not to push. And I know that's not a message that everyone likes, but at the end of the day, I believe it is one that's probably right for us long-term in this community, and I think we should be doing more of it. So, I'm never going to apologize for us doing infill development in the city, because I think it's what we should be doing. Every time we put housing in the city, we prevent someplace green space from getting mowed down and putting up something else. So, that's the way I feel about it, and I'll continue to support infill development. John, I'm sorry. Yes, Jeremy.
This is kind of related. You mentioned this a minute ago. The initiatives that were taken up last week kind of been hard. What are your thoughts on that specifically, about council holding back some of the money, about them designating some hotel rooms, and about the chances of getting some of that money for Lotus?
Well, we have the Lotus is going to come in December, so we're going to be bringing that forward. We'll have that discussion. I hope they will see that we definitely needed money to spend in the early stage of triage, which is down at the lowest end. We definitely needed to spend money there. But if we don't spend money up here figuring out how we're going to get people out of the lowest area, then we're just going to stack people and warehouse them, and I don't think that's a good thing either. So, I think Lotus is essential for us to begin to move people out. Now, again, we're not moving people tomorrow that are in the bottom rung, but I mean, the whole idea is to move them up. When I went to Tallahassee, it was very much a system by which they started at the lowest intake area. They had a hotel, then they moved people to that. They would establish, they were off substances at that point. They were working, getting jobs back together, becoming where they could take on home responsibilities, and then they kind of graduated to the tiny home. Like I've said before, tiny homes are not a silver bullet, because not everybody's ready for that in the process. So you need to be at all levels. We need to be building more space. But I think if we don't just want to warehouse people at the bottom, then we've got to have a project like Lotus. So again, that's why I'm bringing it forward. I mean, they hold the money back. I had no problem with that. That's certainly their responsibility to do and allocate. And my issue was we just needed to get something going, and we needed to pick some projects and begin to move some people. So I think it's good that we have moved some of the money, and we're going to actually get some things done and begin some initiatives that will start to alleviate the problem that we have under the interstate. And that's been my goal. The interstate thing was created because of an issue we had with COVID. We knew it was a temporary solution. We were expected to get it fixed. I'm glad we're now moving on the solutions and we're going to get that fixed. I appreciate everybody's patience. It definitely went longer than I would have liked it to, but sometimes that happens. And at the end of the day, I think we get it moved, we get things taken care of, we move the community forward, we resolved an issue, and we figured out what to do with it. And again, I continue to say, I don't know anywhere else. I mean, y'all cover all the jurisdictions around here. I don't know anybody else who's looking as comprehensively at homelessness and affordable housing than the city of Pensacola. Again, we're going to be out there at the forefront. We get a lot of slings and arrows, but that's never stopped us from taking things on. I mean, if they need community solutions, we're going to take it up. Yes.
What do you think the timeline is on the
I think the state has told us they want them out of there by the first of, by January. My goal is hopefully looking at middle of January. That was, the 90-day extension went from the middle of October, so that's about the middle of January. So that's always been my timeline. I know I've gotten a lot of stories about the earlier stuff, which I never said, and every time you come in here, I say January is my timeline, but that's always been the timeline I'm shooting for.
Do you have any concern? Do you think enough shelter space or whatever will be created that there will be?
I think when you look at what's there and what the count is, I know Lawrence went out there the day after the meeting and they counted, I think it was like 101 tents, but a couple of people had more than one tent. So it was, I think the head count was like around 91 in the head count. I think the shelter space that was provided was about 129. I don't think everybody is going. I don't think all 101 people are going to go. I think you're going to have some percentage that go. They're going to have some percentage that's not what they want to do. That's fine. They don't have to go do that. But if they're going to be in this community, they've got to go there. They can go to a different community. I mean, this is what I've been saying for a long time. If we don't have a process, then we become a community of path of least resistance, which ends up where you are. So you've got to have a plan, and I think that was the most important part of us moving this forward. That's what I learned. I went about a year ago. It was almost this day a year ago. I went to Tallahassee, and that's what I learned from them was you got to have a plan. And once you do that, the people have to work to your plan. And if they don't like your plan, there are other communities out there they can go to.
But, assuming there's this finite 100 people or whatever, and you create 100 beds, are there any concerns that those people will just be replaced by others and this camp will kind of organically remain and then you'll be based?
Well, there's not going to be any camp. I mean, there certainly is a state law that they can't be under the interstate. We have worked with that. We've asked DOT to give us some time with that. They have been very, they've been good with us in saying what they're going to do. But I mean, they've been very clear that nowhere else, that what we're doing is against state law, and nowhere else in the state of Florida is this being done. We get it. We asked them and said this is a temporary thing. So I don't think that's going to come back. I mean, it's that's going to be gone. I mean, are there going to be other homeless people camping in the community? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, our goal is to try to solve that, and our goal is the faster we can get all of our citizens understanding what our plan is and committed to it, the better we'll be able to translate. And that's what Tallahassee does. They do a great job of that. They have a plan. It gets executed. They don't have the same problems we have. But not every community has a plan, and see what happens. Yes.
Mayor, you mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago that you were going to take a brief from Andrew Rothfeder about lots 4 and 5. Can you give us a readout? I mean, we're getting close to the end of the 60-day period.
Yeah.
What Smith and Dawson have come back with to you. Is a garage still a part of
The
it?
garage is absolutely a part of it. The question is, how is it? What does it look like? They came back and brought something to us. We're working with Amy right now to respond back to them. A part of it is also figuring out what the appraisal would be. They were much more close to a price that was in the old appraisal. It's about a few years old, but it's less than what we had from Silver Hills. But we're working through that. Again, I mean, we passed on one deal. We'll see what happens. But I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in it. We'll see what's the best part for us. We're not saying that that's what we're accepting. We're simply working through negotiations.
When does the 60 days end?
My feeling is we would like to bring this to council in January, and I think we can still meet that time frame. And so our goal is to get it finished before the end of the month and have it ready for council to see in January. Yes.
But first, I want to have two questions. I want to follow up on Jeremy's question. When the time expires for the interstate, and if you've only got 50% of the people out, are you going to have to send police in there to remove the people?
I don't know what we'll have to do. We'll have to figure out what to do. But there is a state law already on the books, which I mean DOT made us aware of, and they said, you're not supposed to be doing this. When are you going to do that? So they're going to notice it at the first of the year. They're going to put up signs, and I think you're going to see them noticing and saying, they were patient with us, but that's their plan. And so I think at that point, then we will work with anybody that stays to make them aware of what the law is and what their options are.
And then on a different topic, the council's having a workshop on looking into a city electric utility. And what are your thoughts on that in the current situation? What do you think?
It's like what I told you before. There are a number of variables out there. I mean, my issue is there are things to think about related to, I think, certainly dealing with renewables is one of those things that we want to see. Two is reliability, which is things like undergrounding, making sure you're hardened and resilient against damage to your potential infrastructure. And then the last one is cost. And so I think we're supposed to be getting something back from the state of Florida. We asked them to look at some stuff, give us some information. We'll look at that. I think the council really needs to figure out what they want to do on the other parts. I mean, I sat here and talked to you and said, when I look at it, one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we started with in this negotiation was the feeling that they pay 6%, and they wanted staff wanted the ability to go higher. And it's not that my feeling is if the money was coming from South Florida, I would say raise that thing as high as you want to. But the problem is it's coming from us, people who live here. That impacts affordability and everything else, Jim. So it was a difference that I had with my own team, but I said I'm not going to support, I'm not looking to raise the cost on individuals that live here. The last thing we need to be doing is making Pensacola more expensive to live here for our power. And I'd love more revenue for the city, but I don't think that was the right way to look at it. So, there's some things like that we look at with cost. But I look at what FP&L has done. I look at FP&L Gulf Power has put up considerably more renewables. They have a number of things going forward, and I think over time they will continue to be moving in that direction. As I've explained to somebody else, I think there's this little bit of this tension between people who want to do sort of the mom and pop renewables and the industrial renewables. Mom and pops are great renewables. I love it, and we ought to figure out ways to encourage it. But let me tell you, if you drive into the poor sections of Pensacola, do you see solar panels going on any houses? I don't see any of them going on poor areas. You know why? Because that's the way power works. A big industrial company, why they get the monopoly is because they give power to other people, which enables them to provide it for other people that are don't have as much. So again, that's the reason we have the Public Service Commission and we have kind of these utilities issues. Now again, I'm happy to help in any way we can, but I think we need if we're going to truly be serious about renewables, we have to have the industrial partners on there as well, and I think you got to have Gulf Power with that. And reliability, I think Florida Power and Light, Gulf Power has been, I would like them to do more. I mean, we asked if we could get more undergrounding going. That was a point we've negotiated on. We still haven't ever honed down on that point, but it's one of those that we're still going. So, I mean, these are things I would like to hear from the council. Here's the deal. the council doesn't negotiate the contract, we negotiate the contract and then come forward. If they want to figure out and go develop their own power company, that's fine. But I think they ought to figure out also whether they like a deal with the existing one, because if you could do one with the existing provider, it saves you a heck of a lot of time and money. You know, you're just talking about things that we need to have our eye on the ball. Jim, you talk about affordability, you talk about a variety of other things dealing with home. We have our hands full. The last thing we need to do is lose focus on the things that we're doing to go run a utility that we don't have to run right now. I mean, power works pretty well. All lights are on, everything's going. So, I mean, we don't have to step into that. And so, as a city, I think there's only so much we can do, and we have our plate is full, and we ought to be focused on those things that that work there. And so I'm more than happy to figure out things the council would like us to negotiate towards. I think that's a good thing. If those three areas are there, then finally, I mean, whether they even want to do it right now, we've gone month to month. I mean, it's not going to hurt to go another year, month to month, and then figure out, let the voters decide. I mean, figure some of these things out. So, you know, these are all things that they'll have to debate Wednesday, and I hope they will consider it seriously. It's certainly something that I think is important. But if you're going to go in and create a power initiative, you know, to go ahead and take over the electricity system, I think you need a mayor who makes that a priority. If you have other priorities that you're looking at and you've got your hands full dealing with other stuff, I don't think you need to step in and take your eye off the ball of what you're doing with affordability. I mean, as you've mentioned, a lot of things we need to be doing. Power is already out there. So, you know, that's my feeling. If that's a hot topic, then Pensacola can elect somebody who wants to take over the power. I'm just not sure. You know, that's. I think when you look at the companies who've done it, most of them are considerably, their communities are much wealthier than our community. So, you know, if cost isn't an issue, then perhaps you maybe want to take over your own power system. I think from our standpoint, we already have affordability issues. The last thing I want to do is make it more expensive for somebody to be in the city. Yes?
Back to the homeless of the other day. Would it be a correct read on this to say ultimately the ball is in FDOT's court, like whatever happens is FDOT's fault?
Well, I mean, it's FDOT's property. It's FDOT's property. They have made us very clear that they are going to put up signs at the first of the year. So I think
Did he have any role in?
I think ultimately they would be looking for us to assist with enforcement, and we may have to. I mean,
At their direction, not at the city's discretion.
it is a state law. So yeah, we would be asked to, we enforce other state laws. We do that all the time. So that's not unusual for Chief Randall and his team at the police department. I mean, we have to enforce state laws. So it is a state law. We have, while we have an independent charter, it is through the state of Florida, so we have to enforce their laws.
But you're looking to FDOT to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and they've made it very clear to us that their intention is in January that they want to get the space back. That nowhere else in the state does anybody do this. They were very willing to work with us on a temporary basis, but they feel like they've given enough time. We've gotten out of the whole Delta variant issue, and they believe we should have had sufficient time to move the people. That's why they gave us the additional time after we worked through it, and again, that's where we're going.
Why?
Were the moratoriums primarily based on the pandemic, or was it the pandemic and the lack of vaccines?
Jeremy, all of these things combined into a very strange period. You know, I think the idea of what we have, you know, these were all factors that led to this point. You know, I mean, if you want to do a critical analysis in paper 2 years from now and analyze what happened and why we did it and if we did the right thing or whatever, I mean, analyze away. I mean, my feeling is we took care of a specific need during a specific pandemic with specific parameters that were happening, and then we managed to get everybody solved in a way that we could begin to move. And we made everything available. Now, if the person chooses to go to that place, that's great. If they don't choose to go to that place, that's not the city of Pensacola's responsibility. Everyone in this, it's a free country. You have the freedom to not choose those areas. But again, you also have the responsibility to obey the laws, and the law says we're not going to keep those people there. The state's already expected that. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great week and certainly a good Christmas season as we continue to progress through the holidays. Thanks.